I used to read slash listen to multiple books a week, sometimes a book a day, listen to many podcasts per day, yet I was wildly unproductive. I was in this massive false belief system where I thought that reading books and doing these things, listening to podcasts was productivity, when in reality, I had flatlined for many months. Why is that? The main reason is because I was not applying what I was learning. All I was doing was consuming. And I thought that I was actually doing a virtuous thing, that I was being quote unquote productive. But what is the productivity part? It is applying what you learn to where you actually try and take those skill sets and make them your own. Now I maybe spend an hour or two a week listening to podcast or Audible or something along those lines. And I get way more done. And my income levels are showing that because I'm actually applying what I learned. So now when I have some sort of problem that I rise into, I will read as many books on that topic and as many podcasts as I can, as many tutorial videos on that topic so I can figure that out so then I can apply it. So I'm now learning for different reasons. I'm learning to apply instead of just learning to consume because I didn't know what else to do. For example, a few weeks ago, I really need to learn the email sequence, what the copywriting looked like for that email sequence, how to take them from the email to the product, basically the ClickFunnels workshop, what Russell Brunson always talks about. How do you funnel people from where they see some sort of engagement, click on a lead magnet, from the lead magnet, go through some sort of email sequence, buy the product, take them up the value ladder, and all those things. I needed to figure that out for the people that I was working with. So what did I do? I read all of his books, listened to as many podcasts on the subject as I possibly could, applied everything that I learned, and now I no longer listen to that stuff because I learned it to let's say a third grade level, maybe a little bit higher if I'm giving myself a little bit of respect here. And I applied it and now it is working. And guess what? I'm actually making money from that every single day. So I'm just doing what needs to be done and learning when I have some sort of issue. I think so many people, and I'm saying this because I was one of them, get caught up in the false productivity. You think that going in the cold tub and doing all these things, the morning routine, the stretches, adds to some sort of productivity, but it actually doesn't. If your goal is income, which mine is, how do I increase my income, grow my business to the highest possible degree? And to do that, I need to apply what I'm learning and actually step back and stop learning all day. Everyone hears Warren Buffett and his famous quotes where he was saying that I just want to read all day, every single day. And so people think that, oh, to get rich, I just need to read everything all the time. When I was reading or listening to a book a day or a few weeks span, guess what? I don't remember anything from that. I maybe 10%. That means I've listened to hundreds of hours worth of books and podcasts, and I've probably only retained 5 to 10 or 10% of that. Probably maybe 2% if I'm giving myself some sort of credibility. And from that 2%, the only reason why I learned it is because somehow I made that my own idea, either by communicating those ideas to myself, to other people, making whatever I learned and turning it into something that I learned by talking about it, and then actually applying it to myself. That's the only time I actually learn anything. So why would I spend all day just listening to podcasts? I do enjoy doing that. I thoroughly do enjoy listening to these books and listening to the podcast, but that doesn't actually move the needle. What moves the needle is doing the things that they tell you to do. And I was in the point for a long time, I didn't know what to do. I thought, let me just learn all this stuff and maybe I will get somewhere. There was a very long period of time when I was a senior in high school and I didn't go to school a single day, not a single day. All I did was learn macroeconomics. And guess what? I got nowhere. Why? All I was doing was learning this stuff. When I really started to take it to the next level is when I started to talk about these concepts with other people. And then I started to make videos on it with one of my buddies, because then you're forced to take everything that you learned and turn it into your own idea, into your own concepts. Me and my mom would walk the dogs. I'd be trying to talk her through quantitative easing, how it worked on the bank's balance sheet, what it would do to these foreign entities. And it was all fine and dandy, but I'd gotten nowhere. There was a lot that I'd learned, but I really couldn't reteach somebody else these concepts. Why? Because I didn't have not that I didn't have the credibility. Of course, I didn't have the credibility to teach somebody, but because I didn't come to those conclusions on my own. When you listen to these podcasts, you get the answer that somebody else had, that they got to by taking the steps and going through the process, coming to the conclusion on their own. All I got was the conclusion to that process. So I had, let's say, the top of the building without the foundation. And it wasn't until I really started to build a foundation of these learnings, which was taking these concepts and turn it into my own idea until I could really come to my own conclusion as to what these concepts meant. And that's how it is for everything. That's what I really want. So that means, I think, to build the tallest skyscraper, if we're using that same analogy, you have to have a many foundations. So I learned the copywriting, I learned the email sequence, I learned the funneling tactic. So it's still a pretty weak foundation, but because I've applied it and I've done it, and now I could teach somebody else to do it for my business if I wanted to, I would know what's needed. I would know who to hire, why I'm hiring them, what role I'm actually looking for them to fill in, because I've done it myself. And the first step is by far the hardest, but then you actually learn by doing. The foundation of my building grew a little, and now I can maybe add a few extra layers. And that instantly was shown with my income levels. For a very long time, I was stuck in this process of just let me consume everything I can, and then I'll get this great idea. When it never happened. It never happened. The only time I really made some sort of progress was by doing. It was never by consuming. It just wasn't. If it was, I would much rather do that. I would rather listen to podcasts and audible books all day than working. I would. And I would be quote unquote so productive. But that wouldn't make me more money. That wouldn't grow my business. It just wouldn't. And I think I one time heard the analogy of there was a professor who studied basketball, knew the names of every single basketball player. He knew the perfect shot rotation, the angles, every single thing you could possibly imagine, could tell you the scores of the games from the 1942 or whenever the hell basketball games, all the way from now. And he knew absolutely everything about basketball. But when he went to shoot a three-pointer, he didn't make it. Why? Because he spent all of his time learning about basketball instead of practicing. Whereas the kid who has never read a book about basketball, never even watched a game, could beat him 11-0 because he spends his days playing basketball, actually doing, instead of the person who just learned the basketball their entire life. And I don't think that could be any further from the truth. I've only made any real strides in my life from doing. Of course, you have to get the knowledge to do, but you need to do to get the result. At least that's what it is for me. If anybody else has the solution to that problem, whereas you don't have to do to get the result, please let me know, because I would rather consume and get the result instantly.